Hanji, to Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So let us now start the class. In today's online lecture, I want to demonstrate and the articles they are taken from chapter number 4 from the textbook Semiconductor Device Fundamentals by Robert F. Barrett. And the topics that are included in our syllabus, they are Article 4.1.1 oxidation, then 4.1.2 diffusion, then 4.1.3 ion implantation, then Article 1.1.4 lithography, and Article 4.1.5 thin film deposition, and 4.1.6 is epitaxy. So all of these articles, they are taken from our textbook, that is Semiconductor Device Fundamentals. So let us start with our first article, that is oxidation. And the existence of a readily produced high quality oxide helped establish the dominance of silicon in the production of commercial devices. Silicon oxide functions as both an insulator in a number of device structures and as a barrier to diffusion during device fabrication. Silicon is highly reactive, and a thin native oxide layer is rapidly produced by simply exposing silicon to the atmosphere at room temperature. Silicon oxide layers of controllable thickness are produced during device fabrication by reacting silicon with either oxygen, gas, or water vapor in an controlled temperature. In either way, the oxidizing diffuses through the existing oxide and reacts at the silicon and silicon oxide interface to form more silicon oxide. The relevant overall reactions are Si plus O2 is, produces SiO2, and Si with oxygen and water produces SiO2 and hydrogen. So I can show this diagram that produces the silicon oxide, and so here we have the chemical reactions that produce SiO2. Growth of silicon oxide using oxygen and water vapor are referred as dry and wet oxidation, respectively. Dry oxidation is used to form the most critical insulator region in a device structure, such as the gate oxide in a MOSFET, primarily because it yields very high superior Si silicon oxide interface. Wet oxidation, on the other hand, proceeds at a fast rate and is therefore preferred in forming the thicker barrier oxide. So this means that if we need a thick barrier oxide, then we will adopt the wet oxidation technique, and if we require insulation, then we will prefer this dry oxidation technique. Standard oxidation temperature of 800 to 1200 are produced in the furnace by resistance heating. Coil-like heating elements are commonly arranged in 3 separately controlled zones. The outer zones operate at a high power to compensate for heat losses out the end of the furnace. The tube down the center of the furnace is usually made of clear fused quartz, although silicon carbide and procrystalline silicon tubes are also used. The silicon wafer to be oxidized are loaded vertically into the slotted quartz board and pushed into the center of the furnace. During the dry oxidation, the oxygen gas is simply fed into the back of the tube. Wet oxidation is performed by bubbling a carrier gas, for example, nitrogen, through water in a heated flask or burning oxygen and hydrogen at the input of the tube. The later approach is called wet oxidation. Progenic wet oxidation. The required time in the furnace depends on the furnace temperature, the desired oxidation thickness, and the silicon surface oxidation orientation. Representation of dry and wet oxidation are shown in figure 4.3. So here we have the simplified schematic illustration of oxidation system. And figure 4.3 shows the dry and wet oxidation growth curve. The silicon oxide thickness formed on 100 and surface. So here we have the wet type, and here we have the dry type oxidation with respect to the time. Now comes our second article. This is the diffusion. Article number 4.1.2, diffusion. Solid state diffusion is an historically important and still widely used method for introducing dopant atoms into a semiconductor lattice. The basic process is sketched in figure 4.4. The semiconductor crystal, a silicon wafer in 4.4, is exposed to a solid, liquid or gaseous source containing the desired impurity. A reaction at the water surface establishes a supply of dopant atoms immediately adjacent to the semiconductor crystal. At evaluated temperatures, the atoms slowly diffuse into region of semiconductor not protected by oxide. Diffusion takes place of course because concentration of impurity atom is greater outside the crystal than inside the crystal. The surface doping concentration produced by this method at very high are very high, and thus the surface region takes on the N or P-type character associated with the diffusing atoms. It should be noted that diffusion also takes place into the silicon oxide at a relatively slow rate for the common dopant. This means that silicon oxide can protect the underlying silicon for only a limited period of time. For a given dopant, the masking time depends on the oxide thickness. Masking time means that how much time silicon oxide will prevent the doping the reaction underneath it. The diffusion temperature and the background doping. For a given dopant, the masking time depends on the oxidation thickness, diffusion temperature, and the background doping. Diffusion is commonly performed in an open tube system identical in construction to that used for oxidation. Diffusion temperature are also similar, ranging from roughly 900 degrees C to 1200 degrees C. The only major difference is the introduction of a dopant source in place of oxidizing ambient. The specific example of phosphor diffusion employing a liquid source is schematically is shown illustrated in figure 4.5. The pictured nitrogen carrier gas is passed through a bubbler containing phosphorus oxychloride that is liquid at room temperature. That is a liquid at room temperature. The nitrogen picks up vapors from the liquid source and carries them into the furnace tube. The small percentage of oxygen admitted into the furnace reacts with the phosphorus oxychloride to deposit on the surface of silicon wafer. And silicon in turn reacts with P2O5, liberating phosphorus atoms that diffuse into the silicon. So this phosphorus oxychloride, oxygen admitted into the furnace reacts with phosphorus oxychloride to deposit P2O5 on the surface of silicon. And silicon in turn reacts with P2O5, liberating phosphorus atoms that diffuse into the silicon. Because undesirable surface compounds tend to form at higher diffusion temperature, the forging is often combined with the second step where the dopant source is cut off. The furnace temperature increase and the already introduced impurities driven deeper into the semiconductor at proper rapid rate. When a two-step process is used, the portion of the source present is called the pre-deposition. The later portion with the source removed is the drive-in. Neglecting the second order effect, impurity concentration versus position inside the semiconductor after pre-deposition and drive-in step can be computed from equations 4.2a and equations 4.2b. So here we have in this figure 4.5, we have the illustration of phosphorus diffusion using a liquid source. So here we have the chamber. The chamber has the silicon wafers. From one side we have the phosphorus oxychloride and then nitrogen and oxygen. Okay, a simplified schematic semiconductor by creating ions of impurity accelerating the ions of high energy ranging from 5 kilo electron volt to 1 mega electron volt and then literally shooting the ions into the semiconductor. One might suspect the implanted ions displace semiconductor atoms along their path into the crystal. Moreover, the ions themselves do not necessarily come to rest on a later site. A follow-up anneal, an integral part of the rollover process, is therefore necessary to remove the crystal damage and activate planted dopants. A simplified schematic of an ion implementation system and photograph of a commercial implementation and station are presented in figure 4.7 and 4.8. Ions of the desired impurity are produced in the ion source shown in the extreme left in figure 4.7. The ions are next accelerated into the mass analyzer where unwanted ions are produced in the ion source are removed in the ion source are removed. The resulting ion beam is then accelerated to the preset operating potential, focused, and finally scanned over the surface of the wafer. Scanning it accomplished electrostatically by mechanically moving the wafer or by combination of the two methods. An electrical contact to the wafer allows a flow of electron to neutralize the implanted ions. A very precise determination of the total number of implanted ions per centimeter square called the dose and given symbol phi. It is obtained by integrating the target current over time of the implant. The concentration profile produced by ion implementation has a general form of a Gaussian distribution function that is given in equation 4.3.